think I'll ever go home again.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another Backlot Banter movie review. My name is Tucker Hazel. Today, I'm joined by my rich and powerful co-host, Tanner Dykstra, and today we're here to talk about Saltburn, Emerald Fennell's sophomore outing. Tanner, we saw Promising Young Woman in theaters, of course, Best Picture nominee a couple years ago. Really enjoyed it. Lots to talk about there, and now she's back in the writing, producing, directing chair with a whole host of new wacky characters for us to discover in Saltburn, and we're going to talk about that. But if you want to talk to us about Saltburn, of course, we have a comment section and a Discord that has a link in the description, and a subscribe button that helps you not necessarily talk to us about Saltburn, but makes me happy that I'm talking about Saltburn to you. How about that?
Yes.
I certainly hope so.
Tucker, speaking of talking about Saltburn, in our typical post-movie theater breakdown discussion,
yes,
our friend Sam and I were saying a whole lot, and you weren't saying a whole lot. You were sort of filed away.
Yeah.
You were keeping your thoughts a bit hidden, a bit secret. So Tucker, I want you to go first.
Keeping it secret, keeping it safe.
Exactly. I want you to go first.
First of all, I love Promising Young Woman, one of my favorite movies ever, one of the most impactful movies for me. And Saltburn does not reach that level, but I think it's equally as compelling for different reasons. I think that this is one of the most, engrossing movies I've seen in a long time, just from the way that it's shot and paced and acted and production designed and lit and all of this. It is so top of the charts for so much of the production aspects that I found it a movie that it was difficult to look away from. Of course, I'm in a movie theater. I'm not supposed to look away from it regardless, but I really found myself engrossed by it, and I loved it all the way through.
Sure, absolutely. I found Saltburn to be a very richly produced film, and yes, Tucker, as you pointed out, it just looks fantastic. It is visually and aesthetically engrossing, I think. But I think it is fair to point out that I agree with a lot of what you said, that it's very well acted, and that it just looks so interesting and reveals itself to you in such interesting ways. Yeah. But to that end, I feel like I need to point out that much like Promising Young Woman, I feel like it's a solid film, a very good film from Emerald Fennell. Fennell?
Who knows?
One of those roots or plants.
Yeah, that's a vegetable.
Yeah.
Fennel.
That doesn't become a home run for me.
Okay,
even though it very much feels like it could, it just doesn't it's more of a double maybe than a home run.
Okay, yeah.
And I think there's some reasons for that we can get into. I think it largely for me it comes again down to, much like Promising Young Woman, kind of the ending and maybe some writing issues as well. But by and large, it's a fun time in the theater, if that's what you're looking for. It goes whole hog into debauchery and being sort of I don't know, what do you want to call it? Lustful and sexy, and it has all of that in spades. But I don't know if it just doesn't wrap it all up in a quite nice of a neat bow for me.
Yeah. I think that I don't take as much issue with sort of the sloppiness of the ending or maybe the lack of thematic value, because I do think that watching this film on its level, it is just a lustful, crazy time that's produced to look like a film that should have more thematic value and A24 core and these things that we kind of come to modern film for. Yeah, it is lacking in some of those thematic areas, but I think that what the film exists as is a bunch of interesting characters that are bouncing off of one another in interesting ways, and of course, down the line, all the great production value. But I want to start with Saltburn itself.
Okay. The setting?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because Saltburn in the movie is a place. It's
it's an estate.
Banter? Oh, we're saying the same thing.
Yes.
It's an estate where a rich family lives.
The Catton family.
Yeah. Well, they almost never say that name.
No.
We find out twice, maybe. And they're just a bunch of wacky characters.
That's true.
And they're very isolated out there, and the place is extravagant, but it exists as sort of this playpen for things to snowball out of control and for gossip to be spread. And I feel like that is really the element of the film that most engrosses me. I think the early 2000s college party aesthetic and vibe at the beginning is fine, but once we hit Saltburn and rumors are being spread and whispers are happening behind the walls and weirder characters are starting to get weirder and weirder, that's where I'm like, This is unique. This is weird. It's special.
And yeah, to point out that it's unique is what I want to bring in the aesthetic talk, because I think Emerald Fennell succeeds greatly in mixing aesthetics in this film. You talk about like this film is set in like 2006, I want to say. Yeah. And yes, it brings in that British party culture, indie sleaze. I believe some call it. I believe I also saw the term new rave thrown out there.
Not familiar with these,
but it also mixes these with Saltburn is an old
Victorian setting.
Yeah, it's like dark academia and Victorian, and it mixes these things.
High arches. There's busts of people and old paintings. So on the walls.
Have our 20-something college characters lounging about in their skimpy bikinis and like cut off swim trunks and stuff like that in like giant donut inflatable tubes, but it like backgrounded with something that looks like it's out of Downton Abbey. And it's very interesting, and I think serves the story and like the overarching narrative of the film very well, in that we have these sort of like conflicting ideals, and all of it comes back to just these sort of like daft rich people sort of just lounging about, not really doing anything, not having to work for anything. And we inject Oliver Quick into this narrative, into this setting.
He's a monkey wrench, isn't he?
Yes.
He's a wacky guy, of course, played by Barry Keoghan, and as far as I know, this is one of his first, if not his first, like starring role. Like he is the main character of this film. It is very much through his eyes, following his story, and he's bringing the juice. I mean, he goes the entire range of what you can expect from an actor of his caliber, from as meek as you can be, especially near the beginning, to crying moments, to yelling moments.
He's pulling out all of the Barry Keoghan stops. I think, if you want like sort of a taste test of this role, I'd say probably watch Killing of a Sacred Deer, where he is just an odd little meek but very like dark and sort of mystifying character. And Barry Keoghan is just good at doing that. And he also brings some of his Banshees of Inisherin character into this, where he has some deliveries that are a bit like, oh, is he like doesn't get it, like he's not understanding what's going on here. Yet, at the end of the film, spoilers, maybe he knows more than he's letting on.
And that, I think, the dynamic between Oliver and the surrounding family members that at Saltburn that he's surrounded by, I think is really what makes this movie tick, is watching him learn what's going on, watching them learn about him, get used to him, not be used to him, the push and the pull and the ebb and the flow of all of that, I think really helped me stay super engaged, because I wasn't like super sold on, okay, kind of down on his luck guy gets shipped off to this, or like invited to this rich family's thing. Watching him get comfortable at Saltburn is intoxicating to watch. I mean, Barry Keoghan as Oliver like really comes out of his shell, and he's taking off his shirt and lounging around, but that is in stark contrast to when he first arrives, and he's like sheepishly walking around the halls.
His tucked in button-up shirt all the time, and
he's being very polite to people, but as it goes on, he's more and more comfortable in that environment. I really love that progression.
I felt like it happened a bit of a 180. Maybe not specifically him getting comfortable there, but him revealing the thing about his character happens a bit of a 180. And at a certain point, to a certain extent, I'm okay with that because of reveals at the end of the film. That totally like recontextualizes his entirety of behavior throughout the rest of the film. But I think in the moment I was a bit confused by that, but it becomes less of an issue once it's recontextualized. Tucker, I want to talk about Felix Catton. Jacob Elordi. Having a hot couple weeks of this recently with Priscilla and now Saltburn. As just our everyone's favorite sharp-jawed 6'5" hunk. Sex symbol. And that's what he serves as is in this. He is, Felix is a friendly character. He is, sort of, I don't want to say like fed up, but sort of over like the whole nouveau riche thing that's going on at Saltburn. He's telling his mom to like, stop asking so many questions. I understand that this whole thing is weird for you, Oliver, but just kind of settle into it. It'll be fun. Like, he is the most grounded of the Cattons for sure.
And I think Jacob Elordi does amazingly well here.
Absolutely.
This is probably my favorite performance of his. I think that you're right in him being grounded as a member of the Catton family, correct? I just want to make sure. The Saltburn family.
The Saltburn family.
The Saltburns.
Mr. and Mrs. Saltburn.
Welcome to the Saltburns. Him being grounded, I think, really does help this movie a lot because everyone else feels so detached and they mostly don't like Oliver or are trying to exploit him in different ways.
Towards him. Yeah.
But Felix feels like he cares.
Yeah, exactly.
And he is put into this crazy scenario where he has this family with a history that apparently goes back to kings and queens of the past, and they're living this ridiculous house.
King Henry's spunk is still on the bed.
And there's so many good lines like
exactly.
that. But the way that he explains these things and exists in the space of Saltburn with his crazy family members as just kind of a guy that's like, yeah, this is how it is, but like, it's weird, but it's my family.
Yeah.
I think that really helps keep Saltburn from like spiraling out of control and these characters from feeling so over the top because our in is Felix, who's just seems like a relatively caring guy, and there's this history that's kind of lightly delved into, but not certainly not completely explored. Of the fact that he's had
people
here before that were either lovers of his or people he was taking advantage of to make it maybe seem like he was more friendly than he actually is. But that's not delved into, and frankly, I think that's maybe a shortcoming of the script a little bit.
I think it's also kind of like a red herring because Saltburn is the kind of movie where like, okay, what's the thing? What's the shoe that's going to drop? Yeah. Where is it? Is it that do they bring people here and murder them? Yeah. I don't know. Is this a get out thing? Is this a ready or not situation? Yeah. Is it a get out situation? But no, I like Jacob Elordi. I like everyone in this film.
I think the cast is phenomenal.
I mean,
there's no one delivering a weak performance.
You have Felix's parents, Rosamund Pike and Richard E. Grant, who are both very good in their own right.
Yeah.
Rosamund Pike is sort of like aloof and just sort of she hates ugliness and has this aversion to ugliness and just is like very gauche in that regard. She's very what's the word I'm looking for here? I don't know. She's just like very upfront with all of her like dislikes and quirks and stuff like that. And so is Richard E. Grant. He's just mostly having a good time.
Oh yeah.
Especially when you're looking at like that storied British actor Richard E. Grant watching like The Ring in Superbad with his
just
kids.
Reacting and laughing and the supporting cast also really brings together. And I point out that no one delivers a bad performance because there really are only like 5 or 6 main characters. Because then you also add Venetia, I believe,
and
Felix's
Farley.
Sister.
Yep, Felix's sister.
And Farley, their cousin, and they are also both giving great performances. I think what's so interesting about Saltburn is that juxtaposition you mentioned earlier is it's kind of almost a like summer vacation movie set at like fucking Hogwarts.
Exactly.
And it's such a fascinating juxtaposition where the 4 of them are palling around, lounging by the pool, but it's like a pond kind of.
They're playing like 2006 pop music, like both
doing karaoke,
diegetically and non-diegetically. It's like that is what I think that's my main takeaway about Saltburn is yes, all the performances are very good, but largely is that I am in love with this aesthetic that Emerald Fennell has crafted. I think largely out of her own personal experience.
Sure.
I did a little bit of reading, read a little Vogue article about in 2007, she was at Oxford, and she was like seeing this aesthetic mix in real time of like the storied halls of Oxford University from 1652, and then people are wearing like neon mini skirts and like Ralph Lauren sweaters with nothing underneath, but
it's an aesthetic that is obviously a real thing from her past, but feels fake.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, because in our minds, because we're dumb Americans, we don't have a lot of interaction with British culture, especially not modern British culture, but like, we just like, they're probably wearing like their fucking schoolboy outfits uniforms and shit. Yeah. But like, no, they're teenagers and they want to listen to their pop music and they want to wear their colorful clothes and smoke and do drugs and all of this. And it's really fascinating to see that it feels like it should be a culture clash, but it's not.
Yeah.
Like, Saltburn is presented as it is. This is a place where wacky characters that have modern ideals just live their lives.
Yeah.
And it's never presented as something that's like totally bizarre. It's just like, this is kind of how it is.
Yeah.
And I think that is really sold by production design, lighting, cinematography, costume design, all of which are some of my favorite of the year, if not of all time.
It looks gorgeous. Like they just Linus Sandgren, who's people might know him best for the cinematography of La La Land as well. And
Babylon.
And Babylon.
Yeah.
I think this film is similar to Babylon in a number of ways, in how I think about it as well, as a whole product. But it's just gorgeous to look at. Let's not. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Like they just know how to craft an image.
Yeah,
like the colors...
imagery is the key.
Yeah,
because this movie is set up in ways where it feels like they're leading characters and set design to be shaped into paintings, kind of in the way that Wes Anderson's framing and set design really lead towards something. It's like, okay, that wasn't accidental. Like you really fucking thought about that. Saltburn is absolutely that. And even in just the quickest flashes, this movie leans hard into exaggeratory color design and exaggeratory reflection and framing, and it's all shot in 4:3, which I think really does.
Is it 4:3? I thought I saw somewhere that it was like sort of a unique aspect ratio.
Well, it might be, but it's close to 4:3.
It's 4:3,
certainly not
quite.
16:9.
Exactly.
But that framing, kind of similar to The Lighthouse a few years ago, instantly gives it this painterly aesthetic where it's like everything has to be in frame in such a specific way where your mind immediately is like, oh, this is looming in this way, and this is framed in the corner in this way. And there are just, I mean, I can't wait until I can find this movie online and just screen capture, because I could watch a slideshow of this and just be like, it might be one of my favorite looking movies ever because there's just so much framing design.
It's framing, it's natural light. I've noticed well. Because at first glance, it might be like a lot of these shots seem
really
dark.
like
really dark, but it's just because we're not making use of like interior lighting even that much.
Sure.
There's a lot of like people
not a lot
sitting
of key lighting.
Exactly. Not a lot of there's a lot of people sitting by like bay windows, and it's just the light from the outside.
Yeah, so you get silhouettes.
Exactly. It's a lot of that, and it just looks gorgeous.
Yeah.
Love
and
that.
The color. I think I really want to point out.
Yeah.
I really love how they just saturate this movie.
Yeah.
It can go from just a simple cream and brown interior of an old ass house to poppy color, or even poppy color that is somehow reframed in the inside of this house. There's greens and blues and yellows and purples and creams and browns, and like sometimes these frames are so dominated by one color, it like shocks your mind into a different sort of state of thought of like, wow, it reframes the way these people's faces look. The set design is colored in a different way. I think the color design of this movie is second to none.
It's really amazing. Tucker, should we talk about the story?
Sure.
And by the nature of that, should we get into spoilers a little bit?
Yeah.
Okay. So the story of Saltburn, which we haven't really touched on a whole lot, other than saying Oliver goes to Saltburn.
Yes. That's what the trailer is.
Yeah, exactly. But something bad is going to happen at Saltburn. That's sort of the overhanging threat that Saltburn poses. And what we sort of come to learn over the course of the film, as Oliver sort of reveals to us, as I mentioned, is that he knows more about, and like he is a bit more manipulative than he was letting on. He's not just some, humble, like low income guy who's just so happy and so thankful to be brought here to Saltburn. He is obsessed with Felix.
Yeah.
Both, I guess, as we're meant to understand it, romantically and sexually,
Yeah.
but also like in assuming his position. The classic thing of like, I want him and I want to be him.
Yeah, like an All About Eve type of thing.
Exactly. And so what happens is he sort of goes to each of the family members of each of the Saltburn family members.
And Mr. Saltburn's daughter Saltburn.
Yes. Tries to manipulate them in particular ways.
Yeah.
To what effect, we're not really sure until the very end.
Yeah.
In that he did have, should we say it? Should we say spoilers?
You already said that.
Okay. Spoilers, 100% here going forward. The ending montage reveals to us that he did, I guess, sort of plan to murder Felix all along, or like a lot of these things, the meet cute that they kind of have, and so on and so forth, was all planned out by him.
Yeah,
he was engineering these moments to get to this point. Or was he? Because it's not each and every moment that's shown it was engineered. There's some that are just skipped over, and we're meant to maybe understand that those are just happy coincidences, that he kind of just roll with the punches there. I think that's sort of a shortcoming in the writing as well. Like, if you're going to tell me that he engineered each and every moment, and show me it as well, like, don't just cut like 2 or 3 of them. 2 or 3 big ones, by the way.
Yeah.
Like, how he gets Rosamund Pike or Richard E. Grant, or we know how he gets Rosamund Pike, but Richard E. Grant and stuff like that. Like, you cut that, and if you're gonna show me it, show me all of it, kind of thing.
Yeah, I think that the ending is weird, but in retrospect, of like, okay, that does omit some things and it reframes things, but I think in reframing, it bumped this movie for me up from like 4 stars to 4.5 stars. Spoilers for my score here. But I know I said spoilers, but I just had to I had to get it out there. Is that I feel like this gives this movie a little bit more distinct teeth in my mind. It's because up to this point I was like, yeah, we learn he's a liar and like that's pretty interesting, but okay, he's just kind of a scumbag. Yeah. But I think taking it to that extra level of debauchery and ridiculousness where it has been planning things and there was this sort of Saw-esque puzzle going on the entire time in the background, I think does make me just think about this movie in a little bit more of a tightly composed regard of like, oh, okay, there was more going on here than I was let on to at the beginning. And I think that maybe it's just because I wasn't as keyed into him being as bad of a person as he ended up being.
Oh, God. Okay, gotcha.
I always knew there was something off about him, but I believed that his parents were dead. Sure. I believed that he was poor. I mean, the fact is the movie presents it as such at the beginning, and that reframing just makes me think about, man, he really has thought through all this, and he's a shittier character, but he's a more complicated character than I'm led to believe, and it makes the sort of moral conversation of like him lying to get into these scenarios, and the fact that kind of mirrors the fact that they will hide things from their past and will allow people to get away with certain things. Yeah. I think that adds a layer of intrigue and be like, oh, there's something more creeping along in the background that did bump it up for me. So even though I don't love the ending, I don't love how obvious it is. Yeah. I ultimately it's a positive for me because it was something I didn't expect. Sure. And I was like, that's kind of fun.
Well, so yeah, I guess that's where like I come down on it in a different way, is that like, yeah, I didn't know that like his parents would still be alive, and I think that muddies like some class things that this movie's trying to clearly say as well. Is that his parents are not only not drug addicts, but they're dead, but they're in fact like a middle class normal family that could afford to send him to Oxford.
Who paid to send him to Oxford?
Yes, exactly. But to talk about the ending and the reveal, like, yeah, I always kind of knew that he was gonna end up killing Jacob Elordi because that's how this story is going to go. Like, when you have this thing of like, I don't know if I want him or I want to be with him, and it's it's drenched in this masculinity as well, I know someone's gonna wind up dead. Sure. I get that. I see the forest through the trees on this story. Sorry, Emerald, but I didn't need you to tell it to me twice. Sure. Like, when Jacob Elordi winds up dead and Barry Keoghan is acting like he is, like, oh, he obviously killed him. Oh yeah. So I didn't need to see him like pouring...
As soon as he wakes up in bed and you hear screaming, you're like, he fucking killed that guy.
Yeah, we didn't need to see it. But then then we go into a montage of him like, oh, I gotta pour this arsenic into the champagne or whatever. So at that point I was like, dun dun dun. Exactly. Dun, 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 dun. I get it. Like, and it didn't need to be redundant in showing it to me. Yeah, that's fair. I don't know what that is. If Emerald just didn't like trust her audience to pick up on that. Yeah. Because I felt the subtext was pretty not sub. Let's say, just text. And even his whole behavior before that of being manipulative, like it's pretty obvious that he wants to replace Jacob Elordi as like the favored and only son of this family. And then of course it goes farther into it when he ends up, he puts razor blades next to Venetia's bath and which convinces her to kill herself. And then at the very end he takes Rosamund Pike off of life support, which is the thing where I'm like, he's just lucky that she got sick. Or did he do something?
I think he must have done something. And that's another thing where that part is sped through so quickly. Yeah. But that's an interesting part of the story of him showing back up in her life and returning to Saltburn, and we see a very quick glimpse of she like signed a paper to like
sign this over to him,
include him as part of the family or make him her heir or whatever. Mm-hmm. But that is like just a glimpse, and so we're left to be like, oh, okay, I can put that together, but like, frankly, I would have wanted to see that. And I would have wanted to see how she got sick but this movie's also already long. It is 2 hours and 10 minutes. Yep. And so I think that's more of a, and this is a negative, but it's more of like, yeah, you get it.
There were things seen and things unseen that I think maybe needed to be rebalanced, is what I'm saying. Sure. I think there's
He's swapped
also,
around.
I think there's also, as we mentioned, there's a bit of sexual debauchery in this film.
Not a little.
No, there's quite a bit.
Yeah.
And
Maybe more than any movie I've seen recently.
And listen, it's really fun to watch.
Yeah.
It's silly. Like we were the only ones laughing in the theater, but that's the kind of the reaction that you're going to have. You're either going to be titillated or you're going to be tittling, I guess I would.
Sure.
Tittering, thank you. As in laughing. And I think a lot of it comes... I think I came down on, like, it being funny to me because it all was, like... It's, like, fan-fiction-y writing. Like, the thing with him and Venetia is very, like, fan-fiction-y. And kind of feels... I think it is literally similar to a scenario in, like, a 50 Shades of Grey book.
Sure.
Or him on Felix's grave is a bit okay, all right. We get it.
Yeah, I think the reason I don't read it as, like, so simple as you do is I think it offers good imagery and good scenarios for these characters to act in, and it does increase the tension between the characters. And so when after sexual moments are going on, they're like giving good looks, and like it kind of adds another layer to this pot of arsenic.
I'm not saying that, like, I'm not an anti-sex scene guy. I'm not saying it needs to be cut by any means. It's just like an interesting element of this film and how those scenes are written and played. I think.
Yeah. I just think they're, for what they are, they're done very well. They're always shot beautifully. They're always performed beautifully. And I think they add a lot of texture to the relationship between these characters as things start to spiral out of control, and more gossip is going on that we know is true, but there's lies and covering things up. And I found that, again, to be a really part of the why I found this movie to be so intoxicating, of like what is each character telling one another, and what's happened between the two different people. I found that to be a really fun, relatively simple web to follow, but a compelling web to follow.
Sure. I think that there's an element of the just like plain doing it for shock value as well. Yeah. I think particularly, I'll just say it since we're in spoilers, Barry Keoghan pulls his pants down and fucks the dirt on top of Felix's grave.
And this isn't an insert shot. This is... Frankly, it might be like a 90-second, 2-minute shot.
You see it happen in real time, and you see him, thrust multiple times into the ground.
But it's all framed in this 4x3 tree looming over the side, gravestone, horizon filling the center of the frame. Like, it's a beautifully composed shot. And
it's just a shot of Barry Keoghan fucking somebody's grave
with his ass out. Yeah.
It's just really funny to me. Like, it's just very funny, and at that point, I'm like... I don't know if that's supposed to be like a really like lustful moment, or it's just like too on the nose and too over the top to be like a really meaningful moment to me.
No. And I don't think a lot of this movie is supposed to be super meaningful. And maybe that's why I don't read this film as maybe vapid as you do in terms of its themes, of like, I just think it is supposed to be ridiculous.
Sure.
And in that intent, it's like, it leans so hard into that. And the horniness is off the charts, and the imagery is just leaning full into it. And I just don't... I don't know Emerald Fennell, and I don't know her writing process, but I can't imagine she's writing the scene where the star of the film takes off his pants and puts his penis in the ground as like, this is supposed to be like serious and meaningful. I'm that's fucking stupid, and it's ridiculous, but it's a good image, and she knows it.
This is something I've considered as well, is, I'm thinking like, does Emerald Fennell like not fully grasp or sort of mishandle the themes of this film, or is she like throwing those out entirely and just saying like, I'm going to make something trashy and horny and a la maybe lots of people have been drawing comparisons to like The Talented Mr. Ripley, but is this supposed to be something more just purely titillating, like Cruel Intentions from the 90s or something like that, where, and I don't know. I don't know where I come down on it. All I know is, Tucker, I had a damn good time with Saltburn.
Yeah, and so did I. I mean, and that is really what I take away from it, is this is covering my like nominations for my personal blank of the year in so many different categories. I think that Emerald Fennell's creative and directorial voice is there in spades, in terms of the way that she writes her characters and writes these twists and creates crazy scenarios that the parallels can be drawn to Promising Young Woman. And I went in not expecting that it would match A Promising Young Woman for me, and I don't think it does.
Sure.
But it's one of my favorite movies of the year. It gave me so many moments of like that's fucking filmmaking up there.
That's movies.
I'm seeing vaginal blood being on faces and cum being drank and penises in the ground, and I'm like, that's the thing. That's cinema.
Like, it's so over the top that at a certain point I have to respect it.
Yeah.
But at the same time,
don't tell Phil about this.
That's true. Join our Discord. That's a little inside joke. But at a certain point, there are just questions raised.
Sure.
That maybe a third time's a charm. Maybe this Emerald Fennell's next film will be a home run for me, like these two have been for you.
Ballerina.
Tucker. I meant her directing.
Well.
But yeah, I mean, like, I like Promising Young Woman. I really like both of these films, but I just think that they're a bit mishandled in my view to be like perfect films.
Mm-hmm.
So ultimately, Tucker, Saltburn, I'm gonna say like a 7.7.
Okay, sure, 7.7. I'll go higher. Believe it or not, I know, fucking shocker here. I'm gonna go 9.1 out of 10. I think this is a phenomenal film. And even if it is lacking in some regards, I found so much to make up for that. Where it's like, no, yeah, like so much fucking work went into this movie, and I'm like, it just blew me away.
It is. Again, I want to like underline what we said at the beginning.
By the way, you gave it a 7.7. That's a phenomenal score. That's a great score.
Oh, thank you.
No, I mean like. You don't have to.
No, I just mean like underlining the thing at the beginning. It is like beautifully produced in all like technical categories. Yeah. It's really, really beautiful, and like just like I said, Tucker, I love this aesthetic. I love hearing those opening notes of "Time to Pretend" by MGMT and being like, Emerald, I see what you're doing. That's gotta be something.
Yeah,
there's gotta be something.
Is there anything there? You let us know in the comments. We will see you guys in the future for more movie reviews. I feel like I'm a Saltburn character.
Oh, coming?
Moaning.
Orgasming.
Yeah, one of those things.
Organism.
I'm not very familiar with those.